Welcome everyone to our newest podcast at My Lawyer Next Door, powered by Ramachandran Law. Today we have Sujith Sutharsan from Sutharsan Law Professional Corporation here with us to talk about what happens when you call the cops on your spouse. So first, let's introduce Sujith Sutharsan. Tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you, Vithu, for having me here. My name is Sujith Sutharsan. I've been practicing criminal defense, exclusively criminal defense, for about 5 years now. And I have a firm, small firm here in Scarborough, actually working out of the same office as Vithu here. And we've, over the last few years, had a number of different files where there's a family component and a criminal component. So we thought this podcast is sort of good for us to sort of get that kind of information out there for all of you guys to understand how both of us navigate something where there's a domestic violence situation and there's a family component and a criminal component.
All right, so to all our viewers, this is not legal advice. This is a conversation about a hypothetical situation of when a spouse calls it. If you're ever involved in something like this, please make sure you call your legal representative in your area to get specific advice. So this is just a general overview of this area.
Yeah, and definitely echo this, like, don't take your legal advice off YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, make sure you contact someone that's professional and knows what they're doing. This is simply a conversation between two lawyers after court.
Yeah. All right, so let's set up the scenario for everyone. So we have a husband or wife who is living together in the same property. There has been a domestic violence incident. When we mean by domestic violence, we mean that there could be either someone tried to hit someone did hit someone, either with their hand or with anything that's considered a weapon. So a plate could be considered a weapon. I think I had a pen considered a weapon once.
Yeah, one time I heard a story about how the guy was grilling and then the girl was making fun of his grilling skills because apparently he grilled the meat too hard, and then he threw a burger bun at her. And that was considered a weapon.
Yeah.
So you never know what can be considered a weapon. Anything can be considered a weapon. So any of those kind of situations what we're talking about.
Yeah. So there's always two components to this. One is, okay, so if you call the cops on your spouse, this is what happens. The cops, you call 911, the cops will come to the door. The cops will usually, do a preliminary investigation at the site, arrest the person who has been alleged of the assault. A majority of the times it is male, but now we're getting a huge rise in cases. I think you've been telling us a huge rise in cases where there's a lot more males calling the cops on females.
For sure.
And they're taken away to the police station. There's an inquiry done, charges are laid, and then bail is given. Today's video is not going to talk about the process of what happens at the police station, that's for a future video, or what happens during the bail process, because those are two big parts of it that needs their own independent videos. So sure. Now your bail's being granted, and as a condition of bail, always the person who's been alleged of the assault can now not attend at the premise of the home, the workplace, or the kid's schooling within about 300 or 500 meters, depending on the charge. So that is your fact scenario. Now let's get into what happens. So what happens?
Yeah, so like Vithu was saying, when the officers come to your door, they're always going to investigate. But if someone had called the police, whether it's you or your child, whatever it is, and they say, even if it's a push, some sort of assault, the officers don't even have the discretion to not charge them. Like, they think that, like, a lot of our people, அடிச்சா அவர் வந்து போலீஸ் ஆஃபீஸர் மாமா வந்து ஓகே ஏதோ டிஸ்கஷன் பண்ணி விடுவின்னு யோசிப்பீங்க. And அப்படி ஒன்றும் இல்லை. When they come, when the police officers get there and they know that someone pushed someone assaulted someone, they have to lay a charge. It's not like the police officers don't have the discretion not to lay a charge. They have to lay the charge. They have to take you to the station and process you, and then you end up on these bail terms. So what we run into a lot of times is the client comes to us typically after bail, because this isn't one of those situations where they don't get bail. Usually domestic assaults, they do get bail right away from the station, and then they're sort of released. And they come to us and they have these conditions, and a lot of times they're like, have issues with the fact that, oh, I can't go back to my own home, I paid for this home, this and that, and they have all kinds of issues with us, and we sort of explain to them what the process looks like.
All right, so we're going to break this part down into, we're going to break down on the criminal law side. So now once you're in this entanglement, this branches out into two paths. There's a family law side, which I'll cover, and then I'll get Sujith to then cover the criminal law component of it. So on the family law side, what happens is, A, you're not allowed to enter back into the home for a significant period of time. We'll go into the time frames for a while. So this person, we need to have this conversation and break it down to this person that you need to find alternative accommodation. You need to go find another place to live for maybe 6 months to 2 years, because it's going to take a while for this to clear out on the criminal side. And potentially there could be a family law restraining order as well, but mostly it's the criminal side which is going to impact you on being able to return. But what happens is, the family needs to continue on with the day-to-day stuff.
Of course, yeah.
They got to pay mortgage or rent. They got bills to pay. There could be children involved. There could be vehicles you got to get. You might have to get stuff from your home. So what happens on the family law side is now this person who's left out of the house may want to see the children. Most of the time they're like, hey, okay, whatever between me and my wife happened or me and my husband happened, it's happened, but I want to see my kids. So when they come to see kids, it's not so straightforward now. Because not only can they not attend at that place, they probably almost always have a do not contact provision in there. And they may have a caveat unless it's for child issues or something, but that really is rare. So you may need to get a court order to see your kids. We call that access. So to see your kids now, you may need to get a court order. Now that really stems out that really is the starting point of this family law branch. So now, and the wife may need monies to pay rents and stuff, so you may have to make financial contributions. And now you're coming into this wing.
Yeah, and like what Vithu was saying here, a lot of these people who are arrested for domestic violence, a number of them are arrested for the first time. So they don't have experience with the police officers. And when they go in, typically you could be released from the station from bail. And you may not know when it says no contact, the officer's going to say, if you don't sign this, you're not going to get released, so you have to go to court, we're going to keep you overnight. So anyone, especially a lot of our uncles, will sign it right away and say, you know what, I'm going to sign this, I just want to get out of here because I want to get out of the police station. But they don't realize, like we were saying, there's not a specific exception for you to contact through a family court order, mutually agreed upon third party, whatever it is, for you to see your kids. So now you signed off on a bail where you can't legally see your kids until you get this changed through court. So that's the sort of stuff that we have to initially work out, where both of us are taking a look at this bail to sort of figure out what can we do now that we have this bail before us.
Yeah, and usually when that question comes to me, I'm like, okay, now we have to bring an application. Depending on the urgency, we may have to bring an urgent application, because right now applications. So let's say you want to get an order. You have to start a family court case. Then the wife has to respond, or the husband has to respond, which is 30 days after they got the papers. And then you're going to be issued a court order, or a court date. Court dates now in Toronto, Newmarket is for York Region, Peel is for Peel Region, and Durham. Here, the court dates now, I think if you're in Brampton, they're the worst. You're not getting a court date till 2023. Yeah. So that's your first opportunity to get a chance to get a court order to see your kids, and that's not guaranteed. So you may have to bring an urgent court application. And if you go into urgent court application, now this significantly increases your costs, and most people are not prepared for that. Now they have to pay a criminal lawyer, they got to pay a family lawyer for the regular fee, and now you got to for all these urgent actions, you got to pay them more. So it's now not only are they kicked out of their house, they got to pay for a house. They may have to pay for their own rent. Now they got to pay for 2 lawyers as well. And so you see the issues that start to pile up.
For sure. So and that's one of the reasons we want to create this video, because I don't think people realize when they're making that phone call. Of course, if it's we're not saying, of course, if there's some sort of violent situation at home, call the police right away. Call the police, but if you're going to call the police because you're upset at your partner or whatever it is, you have to realize that there are a number of stipulations, financial, and it's going to carry a heavy weight on you for your immediate to long-term future, right? And like Vithu was talking about, all these things that we have to sort of consider, the clients have to consider too. Is it more important for them to have someone there to represent them for the criminal stuff and be there in court? Because they're worried about the charges, whether it's work related, and the charges may come back to work, whatever it is. Or is it more important for them to make sure they're seeing their kids? Because some of their kids in their infant stages, it's very important that they're seeing both parents as much as possible. So will they have to hire a family lawyer first? And those are some of the considerations that clients walk through the door and they have to make right away. What is more important for them to have the family court order? Whether they need a criminal person, can they afford both? And especially, as Vithu was talking about, am I now staying in a new place, rent, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, so, and also you have to also think about the untalked about topic is the impact on the development of the child now being exposed to this split family. So now, especially if the child is at a very tender age, they're going to be like, "Where's Appa?" or "Where's Amma?" And they can't see them. Or you could see them only in the shopping malls. You could only see them at like movie theaters, at restaurants. You could only see them for like 2 days an hour, 2 days a week or something, like 2 hours a week sometimes. And or it's like, why do I have to go sleep over there with dad and not? Why can't you guys like we can be in the same house again? So these are all other considerations that like you have to take into consideration when you're making it. At no point are we saying don't call the police. We're just saying we have the point of this video, the nexus of it was we got a lot of inquiries. It's like, I was angry at my spouse, or it wasn't big, but I called the police so I could teach him a lesson, or I just want him to calm down, or I can get him into control, but I never intended for this to happen. And we're telling you. You may have never intended for this to happen, but this is the sequence of events that's going to unfold in all of your lives.
For sure, and I think there's like alternatives to calling the police. For example, if there's some sort of issue going on, like go to counseling, go to couples therapy, whatever it is, so you can sort of address those issues instead of now like you've called the police because you're upset, and now this whole, like we're talking about, where you set up this whole domino effect where it's your money, your time, everything being spent on something that you did by making a rash decision.
Okay, so let's quickly cover like legal aid. So both Sutharsan Law Professional Corporation and Ramachandran Law Professional Corporation, we both accept legal aid certificates. However, when we say we accept legal aid certificates, you have to understand that means you can get funded by the government of Ontario to cover a portion of your legal expenses. But now in the post-COVID world, we're back to the pre-COVID qualification requirements. What that means is, for example, if now you're considered independent if you got charged. Like if you don't have custody of the kids or anything, you have independent. That means like I believe now the cutoff in 2022 April is about $18,000. $18,000 is a total income you can make. That if you make anything beyond that, you do not qualify for legal aid. But if you break down $18,000, that's $1,500 a month. If you even work a minimum wage job now, you don't qualify for legal aid. It's really for people who are basically on ODSP, Ontario Works. It's an extension of their programs. And the amount of hours, especially on the family law side, got shaved with the new rollout. So, it's really hard to get access to justice if you really can't afford it. Like someone on minimum wage, I'll be honest with you, they can't afford a criminal lawyer and a family lawyer, new rent. There's absolutely no way you're going to be affording this on a minimum wage salary here. However, you're going to be spending thousands, or what it's going to have to do is you're going to make a choice. Like maybe I can't see my kids for 2 years because I can't afford to get a lawyer, right? And it's a sad predicament we're in, and we see this roll through our doors every week.
Every week, every week we see the same thing again and again, and it sucks that this family now has to make decisions between what's the most important thing for them to spend money on. Because I said, like having 2 rent and having 2 lawyers, it's not easy. And he spoke about the family side, and for the criminal side, it's the same thing. If you're independent and you're making more than $18,000, you're not going to get legal aid. But let's say even if you do make under $18,000, let's say you're not employed, you got laid off, whatever it is. The other half of it is, for the criminal side, is are you at a risk of going into jail? And that's a very important thing that the legal aid will consider. And if you're a first-time domestic, typically there isn't a risk for going to jail unless it's like if you had seriously assaulted your spouse or the allegation is serious, of course there is a chance of jail. But if it's like a small thing, if it's some of these pushings or shovings, you're not looking at actual jail time. So there's no way you get legal aid. So you have to pay for a criminal lawyer out of your own pocket.
So now we've gotten to a point where you got lawyers, or you're going through the process. You're coming to the finish line. You're either finished your trial, or you got a plea or an offer from the Crown. Now, we're going to talk about what happens if you accept something. So I'll let you explain what something is and some of the risk factors people should also consider when making these decisions.
Yeah, so obviously we're family lawyer, criminal lawyer here, and specifically we've worked in the community a lot. And sometimes you may even need an immigration lawyer, which will be the third person that might have to sit at the table here, because if in our community there's a lot of people on permanent residency, foreign national, whatever it is, your status is refugee, then you may also need to get an immigration lawyer involved before you consider accepting anything with the Crown. But nevertheless, you're on these bail conditions where you're not supposed to contact your spouse, this and that, you're not supposed to go near their address, and whatever resolution it is, typically it's the Crown's obligation to make sure they're protecting the other party, the person who put the complaint in. So sometimes cases can be withdrawn, but there'll be what's called a peace bond in place. The peace bond will have the same conditions where you're not supposed to contact these people unless they could give permission, written permission to the probation officer or the police officer or whatever it is. They can give written permission, but they can take it back at any time. So you may be on a year peace bond, you go live there for a week, and your wife's like, get the fuck out again, and you have to leave, right? And now for the rest of the year you can't contact her again, and now it's a whole year more you have no contact. You may have family issues because once again you got to go find your children again, right? So it's not easy to go through the process, and once you pay everyone, and now you're having to make a different decision at the end of it whether you want to accept things or not. And sometimes, they ask you to plead guilty on something, and you don't want to plead guilty. Now you have to pay more because you're going to end up going to a trial and deal with all of that. And on your way to the trial, you're once again stuck on this bail conditions where you're not going to be able to contact anyone.
Yeah. So that was great. That was great information. So, if you have any more, so these are the types of conversations we really want to delve into this channel and really bring some substantive, heavy topics and enlighten people of what their obligations could be given these circumstances. So for future videos, if you have a certain topic or certain type of law that you want us to discuss, let us know in the comments below, and we'll be able to make sure we get that content out to you. We want this to be a very relevant and updated channel.
Yes, for sure. And I think, especially both of us are people of color, and what our community in general lacks is like access to justice, and that's a fancy word of saying just like the ability to know what justice is, and that stems back from back home, right, to now here. Like people don't know what their legal principles are and basic things are, and I think the purpose of this channel, and we've discussed this channel, it's been a thought process of this for a long time. It's sort of getting this information out there so people know the basics of law, and that way our community is not struggling and relying on people that they shouldn't be relying on to help them through their legal troubles.
Yeah. So we get a lot of calls. We get a lot of calls where it's saying, hey, I charged my husband, usually it's a wife, but I want him to come home. Sometimes it's not because, sometimes it's because, they genuinely, retract their statement, but sometimes it's pressure from societal or families or everyone gets involved and they don't want to go through the process. We're not going to delve into that part. But what we're saying is you cannot just go withdraw your charge. It's not your charge anymore. Once you make a phone call and you tell the cops, this person did this to me, the case now belongs to the Crown, or like Arasanga Vakil. It's a government's case. You, as the person who made the phone call, are just a witness. You could basically become an uncooperative witness is what you're going to become because you're not going to want to participate, and that's what you're really telling the Crown. So they, try to push for a resolution earlier. But what we really want to tell you is like, if you pick up the phone call and just do it and later retract it, they're not coming home for a while. You don't get a choice of retracting the charge because it's not your charge.
Yeah, to sort of go off that, I can tell you guys a story where, same thing, domestic violence situation. This was actually between a boyfriend-girlfriend, and she made a 911 call. And on the 911 call, she's saying, oh, my boyfriend, did this and that. He like choked me, something like that. And after she made that call, this happened in almost 2019, and for like a year and a half, the Crown's not able to get a hold of this person. They're trying to get a hold of her, and then they get a hold of her one time. She's uncooperative, doesn't want to give any more statement other than the 911 call, because they didn't go, like sometimes there's video statements and stuff, which makes things even higher, but this was like only based on the 911 call. And the Crown took it all the way to a trial because they're saying, based on the 911 call, we can put an application in. I don't want to use the legal terms, but you can put an application in to sort of argue that this person should be believed based on this 911 call, even though the witness is not going to come to court. So there's ways where the Crown could really prove their case if they want, even if you don't participate. So if you go, as all the Toronto police, York police, they're all wearing cameras now. So if you're saying stuff on camera, like that can be used. It's a video camera, it's you there, that can be used against you at a trial. So you have to be very careful. And what Vithu said is very important, right? நான் withdraw பண்ண போறேன் அவன் கோர்ட்டுக்கு வந்து சொல்லுவா பிரச்சனை இல்லை this and that. I'm like, no, it's not your case. It's up to it's up to the Crown. It's up to only the Crown can withdraw the case or the judge can withdraw the case. There's only two people that can. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I want to leave off with is like, if you are going to hire a lawyer and you have the privilege, it's a privilege to hire a lawyer because it's so expensive nowadays, hire a good one. There's so much shitty ones. Like, do your proper research. Get like a few maybe consults or like opinions in. and stop avoiding going to some of these cancerous lawyers who are just shit, and they put you in really compromised positions, maybe for now or for the future, because they just want to like just flush you out. So just be careful with that as well.
Yeah, make sure you do due diligence, and I personally I think we're the same way. We don't mind when somebody's client's shopping around, because we know they're doing their due diligence, and when they pick us, it's like, okay, good job, you guys picked us.
Yeah.
But it's like, do your due diligence and make sure you shop around and find a good lawyer.
Yeah, I really want to thank Sujith Sutharsan of Sutharsan Law Professional Corporation for coming out and sharing his wisdom and his time with us. We hope this could really, even if it helps one person out, then this is all worth it. And if there's anything else that you want us to talk about on our channel, please comment on the comment section below. Contact us through any of our social media channels, and we'll try our best to get that contact out to you. So we hope you will subscribe to our channel, My Lawyer Next Door. Down below, hit the bell to keep getting your notifications on new content that we push, and it helps really helps us create more content for you as we get more subscribers and
Yes, definitely, and support the podcast, support the YouTube channel. We'll put all our information below, like follow us, and we're going to continue to try to build these kind of sessions, so that way, once again, this is all about informing the community and trying to get everyone involved and knowledgeable about the legal process.
And hey, if you also want to collaborate with us on these videos and you have a great topic, let us know. We're always looking for great people to collaborate with and get our message across. So if you're looking out to collaborate, hit us up, and we'll get you in.